A warm welcome to the World Wildlife Day Regional Youth Symposium 2025. My name is Kendra, and I'm honored to be your MC for today's event. Before we begin, here are some housekeeping rules for today's session. Please rename yourself using the format first name _ last name _ country. Kindly stay muted throughout the session to minimize background noise. If you have any questions for our speakers, please post them in the Q&A tab, and we will address them during the discussion. We ask that all participants remain respectful. Please keep comments professional and courteous. Any disruptive behavior will not be tolerated, and disruptive participants may be removed from the webinar. If you encounter any technical issues, feel free to reach out to our team via Telegram or for assistance, or drop a message in the Zoom chat. Now, to start us off, here's a little backstory on why we are here today. World Wildlife Day is a global celebration of our planet's incredible biodiversity and a reminder of the urgent need to protect it. This day was established to mark the signing of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, also known as CITES, which regulates international trade in flora and fauna to prevent threats to their survival. The first signing of CITES on 3rd March 1973 is commemorated through World Wildlife Day, and this year marks the 12th official celebration and the 52nd anniversary of CITES. To officially kickstart our symposium, it is my pleasure to introduce our co-leads, Ms. Tan Ina and Ms. Deborah Goh, who have been instrumental in making this event possible. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, Kendra. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to meet you all today. I'm Deborah, and together with Ina, we are the co-leads for this year's World Wildlife Day Regional Youth Symposium Organizing Committee. So just to give some context as to why we are all gathered here today, the WWD Regional Youth Symposium was conceived by the National Parks Board of Singapore under the Youth Stewards for Nature program. So this program was developed to give youths the opportunity to drive meaningful change by engaging in real-world environmental projects. WWD is therefore a project that aims to grow the youth conservation network in Southeast Asia, as well as connect these youths with mentors and experts in the wildlife conservation sector. So it is a project put together by youths for youths. We hope to encourage environmental stewardship among youths and empower them to act for nature. So on this slide, you can see 4 beautifully illustrated graphics. They actually represent the key art of each run of the symposium so far. So each artwork was designed by our youth organizing team, and they feature flora and fauna found in Southeast Asia. Can you recognize any of these species? So as we look back on previous years, we are grateful that year after year, WWD has experienced resounding success in bringing together youths across Southeast Asia to learn, exchange knowledge, and build friendships with one another. We started off with a virtual symposium in 2022 and scaled up to in-person events in Singapore in the next 2 years. So this brought together workshops and a youth showcase segment to spotlight youth-led projects. These allowed us to rope in more partners and youth advocates who offered amazing opportunities and hands-on experiences for our participants. So it is very heartening to witness the growth of the symposium, not just in participant numbers, but also in the range of activities that make for an enriching experience.
This year, we aim to grow our reach even further by making use of a virtual platform once again. With a virtual event, we can transcend physical boundaries, allowing us to reach out to even more people and achieve a record-breaking number of signups for 2025. We're also grateful to all the partner organizations who have come on board this year to connect with youths and share opportunities for funding and mentorship. Keep an eye out for our partners booklet for more information. The organizing team has worked tirelessly to put together a program aligned with the theme of wildlife conservation finance, investing in people and planet. We hope that everyone gathered here today can grow your knowledge on financial resources in the conservation field, strengthen your advocacy skills, and all in all, be inspired to act for nature. We hope you are excited. This year's Youth Showcase is particularly interesting because we are debuting new ways of interacting virtually. You might have seen teasers of it on our social media already, but we won't spoil it further. It's definitely a segment to look forward to. We would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has made this symposium a success, wherever you're tuning in from. Over the course of today, let us show as much enthusiasm as you can to the screen, to our speakers, youth showcase organizations, partners, and to each other to make this day of learning a fruitful and memorable one. Once again, thank you all for dedicating this weekend to celebrate World Wildlife Day together with us. And we hope you walk away from it as we did, action for conservation. Thank you, and we'll now pass the time back to Kendra to get our program started.
Thank you, Ms. Tan Ina and Ms. Deborah Goh, for your insights and leadership in making this symposium possible. To start off our distinguished lineup of speakers, we are honored to have a speech by Minister Desmond Lee. Minister Lee is the Minister for National Development and the Minister in charge of Social Services Integration. He co-chairs several key national initiatives, including the Singapore Together movement, the Emerging Stronger Task Force, and the Future Economy Council Subcommittee for the Built Environment. Additionally, he co-chairs the Singapore Tianjin Economic and Trade Council and the Sino-Singapore Tianjin Eco-City Joint Working Committee. Minister Lee has been a strong advocate for sustainable urban development, and we are privileged to have him share his thoughts with us today. Although Minister Lee is unable to join us today, we appreciate his recorded speech, which will now be played.
Welcome to the fourth edition. Friends from Singapore and around the region, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the fourth edition of the World Wildlife Day Regional Youth Symposium. Southeast Asia is home to tremendously rich biodiversity. For the last 4 years, youth from all over the region have come together to celebrate this natural heritage and to share ideas with one another on wildlife conservation. I'm glad to see the strong turnout this year. Thank you for stepping up to be stewards of nature. We know that resourcing this cause can sometimes be challenging. You might have an original idea and put together a dream team that is eager to get going, but you may wonder, how do we fund this effort? Conservation work can be resource intensive and operational from a financing and governance perspective. This can make conservation on the ground challenging. So I'm glad that the theme of this year's symposium, Wildlife Conservation Finance, Investing in People and Planet, is on equipping you with the necessary knowledge to start and sustain your own projects. A key foundation for resourcing conservation projects is building connections with people. All of us bring diverse skill sets, perspectives and networks, and by working together, we can achieve more than the sum total of our individual efforts. Let me share an example from our National Parks Board here in Singapore. Last December, NParks launched the 100K Corals Initiative, which aims to plant 100,000 corals in Singapore's waters over the next 10 years and beyond. This is the most extensive coral restoration project in Singapore, and it's possible because of the collective efforts of many partners. Some of them generously contributed over $2 million to this initiative. Others contributed their expertise. In fact, one of them used its technical know-how to install a smart coral culture aquaculture system in the tanks at our coral culture facility to optimize large-scale coral cultivation. Some are helping to galvanize the wider community. They're setting up a training program for volunteers to impart basic knowledge in coral husbandry and underwater monitoring so that the public can contribute to this initiative too. You might not have to look very far to find people you can collaborate with. Just look at who else is attending this symposium. This symposium is a platform for hundreds of youths across our region to connect with one another and to meet possible mentors. Here, you get to know other youths, even from outside your country. So speak to one another, learn from one another. The bridges you build today can lead to solutions for tomorrow. Ultimately, people are our greatest resource, and young people such as yourselves are the next generation of environmental stewards. The future of our biodiversity is in your hands. And this symposium focuses on investing in you, on giving you the skills and networks to drive meaningful and sustainable change. So to our youth stewards, to our mentors, our speakers, and local and regional partners, thank you for your hard work over the past few weeks to put together this important event. We have much to learn from one another, and I wish all of you a meaningful and fruitful symposium. Thank you.
Next, we are pleased to have a speech by Ms. Yvonne Higuero, Secretary General of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, also known as CITES. Ms. Higuero is an environmental economist with an extensive 32-year career in international organizations. Her work has spanned global, regional, and national levels, focusing on disaster risk reduction, sustainable development, and environmental sustainability. With the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals, she played a key role in aligning programs to support countries in meeting their international commitments through cross-sectoral cooperation. Although Ms. Yvonne is unable to join us today, we appreciate her recorded speech, which will now be played.
Dear youth participants, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is such a privilege to address you today, the next generation of conservation leaders, at the World Wildlife Day 2025 Regional Youth Symposium. I really wish I could be there in person, but even through this video, I can feel the energy, the passion, and the determination that each of you brings. You are here because you care. You're here because you see the urgency. And today is about turning that ambition into action. World Wildlife Day is more than just a celebration. It's a reminder of our shared responsibility to conserve and sustainably use the wild animals and plants that support life on our planet. This year's theme, Wildlife Conservation Finance, highlights the critical need for strategic investment and innovative financial mechanisms to sustain long-term conservation efforts. Because without sustainable funding, even the best conservation plans remain just that, plans. Conserving wildlife isn't just about passion or good intentions. It requires resources. And the truth is, traditional funding often does not meet the scale of the challenge we're facing. But instead of seeing that as a roadblock, we can see it as an opportunity. For 50 years, since its entry into force in 1975, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, or CITES, has served as the global intergovernmental framework for ensuring that international trade in wildlife is sustainable, legal, and traceable. This critical work requires collaboration across governments, industry, non-governmental organizations, indigenous peoples and communities, and young leaders. 824 billion US dollars are still needed to bridge the wildlife conservation funding gap. Fortunately, innovative solutions are emerging, from conservation trust funds to debt for nature swaps and wildlife credits. These aren't futuristic ideas, they are happening now, and they need young thinkers like you to take them further. Southeast Asia is home to some of the world's most unique and threatened wildlife, making its conservation not just a regional responsibility, but a global imperative. With the triple planetary crises of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution intensifying, we need collective action to achieve our sustainable development goals and targets of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and our own CITES strategic vision. When we come together, we can create meaningful impact. And when young people take the lead, the solutions can become even more powerful. The future of conservation isn't set in stone. It's being shaped by you right now. Thank you so much for your leadership and contributions to the important cause of conserving wild plants and animals. Let's work together to invest in people, in wildlife, and in the future we all want to thrive in. I wish you an inspiring symposium ahead of you and a happy World Wildlife Day 2025.
Now, we are privileged to hear from Professor Emeritus Leo Tan, a highly respected figure in biodiversity conservation and science education. Prof. Tan is an ASEAN biodiversity hero and an advisor to the Garden City Fund, a trained marine biologist. He has made significant contributions to conservation, including revitalizing the Singapore Science Centre, helping to establish the Lee Kong Chian National History Museum, and laying the foundation for nature conservation as a former chairman of the National Parks Board. We are honored to have Prof. Tan with us on video to deliver the keynote speech. Although Prof. Tan is unable to join us today, we appreciate his recorded speech, which will now be played.
Good morning, everyone. From all around the region, you beautiful young people. This World Wildlife Day Youth Symposium is a very important one. I know you started in 2022 and have come a long way since then. And you are very powerful people. So make full use of all your energy, your talent, your interest in helping to improve a world that naughty people like me, my generation, have destroyed the environment so badly that we now turn to you to look for the future of our planet. But thank you for coming to this symposium, and I know all the people you meet, all the projects you share will be able to help each and every one of you to bring your talent, your energy, your thoughts, your beliefs to make this a better world. I'm a marine biologist by training. I got my interest not because I loved science, but because I loved growing up by the sea and enjoyed the environment there very much. As a child, it was a playground for me. You have got to engage. And this was, I think, how Labrador came about to be a nature reserve ultimately. It took, I think, 30, 40 years for that to happen. But the seeds were planted when I was angry that Labrador was reduced to 300 meters of shoreline, Labrador shore. But Labrador had mangroves, had rocky shore, had corals, sandy, muddy parts. This was the type of scene that Sir Stamford Raffles might have seen had he landed in Labrador. And from 1819 to 2000, this was the evolution of Singapore to the great port that it is. But Tanjung Balaya and Labrador 300 meters beach is the remnant of. I persisted for 30 years, and I would talk to anybody who would listen to me about why Labrador should be saved. But it took NParks and a whole green community to persuade the National Development Ministry that Labrador would have to be saved as nature reserves. And in 2001, it became a reality. I was taken out of my comfort zone in the university as a lecturer and told the director of the Science Centre had just migrated to Australia. Can you take over? 7 people before you have refused the job. And when you look at some of the authorities that ask you those days, You didn't know how to say no. So I went anyway. And that was the best gift I was ever given in my life. Science Center is an exhibition space. It's meant to be a catalyst for young people to think about how science and technology will change their lives. And it was already established when I went. But they were in the process of about to expand the Science Center. I realized any exhibition I wanted to build, and it's permanent exhibitions are 5 years, and they cost anything from $500,000 to $2 million each. So every year the budget was 7-point-something million in those days. And the key was how to get that money. I had no idea. And this is where you young people who have got projects, don't be scared. Develop a little bit of thick skin first. But and go there as a beggar when you need money for your projects. You go there with authority as an educator. Your primary aim is to educate the person you want to give you something about what you are doing and why your cause is worthy of support. Even if it doesn't give you anything, and usually they don't, you have left them with some seeds in their minds about, hey, why are they doing this? Maybe my children will benefit, maybe my workers will benefit from what they are doing, and then the links are formed. And that's how I started. If I visited 10 potential donors in those days, if I got 1 out of 10, I was over the moon. When I left 10 years later, if I had 6 out of 10, and that is, to me, that was a miracle. So you see, the key is persistence, resilience, and you must believe in what you are standing for, what a cause you are fighting for. Come back, lose a battle, retreat, come back again another day. Don't give up hope. And this is how Science Center, when I left, was named by UNESCO as one of the top 10 science centers in the world, or museums in the world. Not because what I did, but because I was thrown into a deep end of a swimming pool and I couldn't swim. Believe me, a marine biologist who couldn't swim went to the Science Center. I don't think I ever stopped thinking about the day I was helping my lecturers as a young lecturer in Singapore University to salvage 500,000 specimens in the National Museum in 1974 to store anywhere in Singapore we could. And it led a nomadic life until 1984, where the university gave them 3 floors of the new science library to house the collection for research and teaching, not for public exhibition. I was by then in Science Center, then in NIE while all these things were happening. But I always had this internal hope that one day we could resurrect the Raffles Museum for Singapore. And it came in 2010, International Museum Day. The Raffles Museum of Biodiversity Research, as it was known then, RMBR, was part of the Museum Roundtable. 3,000 people turned up on a weekend. And the Straits Times letters came in to say that, why don't we have a natural history museum? How come we don't have one? It's so beautiful. But who was going to champion it? And I told Peter Ng, the director of the RMBR, hey, why don't we try, since the public interest and the Straits Times has run a story on let's have a natural history museum, let's try to resurrect this for the people. So people told me, don't waste your time. We're already doing well for the university, doing research. We got reputation, scientists come to study the specimen. You know how hard it is to run a museum? We got to sell tickets and all that. And I said, okay, but think about it. And ironically, the catalyst came when somebody came to us and said, I will give you $10 million to kick off your fundraising if you're willing to do it. I said, this is a message from somewhere. 10 million, that means we don't get it if we can't pull it off. But if we can pull it off, that 10 million is into the bank. And well, long story short, we got our $56 million eventually to build. Ketan, the CEO, was always looking for money. So we sat down, and I think he was instrumental, very much instrumental in trying to persuade the minister that we needed some kind of fund. And the trick was to get a good patron, and we had no less than our Prime Minister of the day. The only way NParks will grow if they must have funds from beyond the coffers. That's how in end 2002 we had a grand gala to launch the Garden City Fund. But for the next 2 or 3 years, and we had a very low target, $5 to $8 million only. Because nobody believed can get that much, you know. But nevertheless, the first 3 years was difficult because everybody said, I paid my taxes already, and you are government. Why do you come to me for money? And I think the committee had to work very hard, NParks had to work very hard to convince the public that sustainability, sustainable environment is everybody's business, not just one party. And everybody contributes to the good and the bad of the environment. Therefore, how can we persuade them? So the latency was almost 3 years. But I think the Prime Minister of the day, he was personally interested in plants, in nature, and so forth. And I think the message got through that eventually more and more, and then they could see the projects. Because in 2003, I believe, the Park Connector Network was born. And that is one of the biggest successes of NParks. The second breakthrough was Mrs. Makani's idea of Plant a Tree program. There was now something meaningful for people to connect to NParks. So around 2007, we started the Plant a Tree program. For a sum of $100 a tree, you can commemorate a wedding, a birth, any reason. And although you can't personally tag your tree, GPS will tell you where your tree was planted. So that became a meaningful exercise, and it became so successful that in 2020, the Ministry of National Development launched the 1 million trees in addition to the trees we have by 2030. I think that figure has now reached about 700,000, way ahead, I think, of the 2030 target. It's a people-oriented project. You will get continuous support, and now the momentum is continuing. And so we can delve into bigger projects like the Comprehensive Biodiversity Survey. The first one was done in 2010 to 2015. We had to go out and raise money together with the Lee Kong Chian Natural History Museum and NParks and the Tropical Marine Science Institute. But the key about that project is not just mapping the biodiversity of the seas around Singapore, understanding how the ecosystem is, what's there, and how we can protect our environment if we better understand what's there. We engaged citizen scientists. We engaged the man in the street, young people from universities, polytechnics, Institute of Technical Education, even high school. to come in and sort out the fantastic amount of material that came up. And I think there were more than 72,000 specimens that we collected, of which 33 are new species to science and maybe 300 new to Singapore. Taking care of nature equates well-being of human beings. And I think this message has got through education, through incidents that happen. And you young people are the beneficiaries of all the information and data that has been gathered over time about what mistakes not to repeat, what new mistakes you might make, but find solutions for them, and challenge yourselves. You are never too young to think about your future. Thank you.
We would like to thank Prof. Tan for the inspiring keynote. On behalf of Prof. Tan, we would like to make a quick clarification that the Park Connector Network was started in 1992 instead of 2003. And before we begin with the talks for the respective tracks, let's capture a quick group moment. So everyone, please turn on your cameras and wait for about 10 seconds until I've given a cue. So let's wave. All right, the video has been taken. And with that, we will now move into our breakout rooms for the track segments. You will receive a pop-up notification prompting you to join your assigned track. If not, do give us a moment for our team to allocate you to your track of preference. Please click on the notification to be admitted